again, so we know there's a custom to play games on Hanukkah. Mainly today it's dreidels, it's vivonim, but there were different types of games that people played in the past. But the first time that we find it mentioned in literature, in halachic literature, is in the 17th century. Rabbi Haim Ovadia, who wrote the book called Havot Yair, writes the following. He says, "Nahirna kadavina talia." Says, I remember when I was a young boy. נמנו ורבו בעלי תקנות ובראשם אדוני אבי לשנות מנהג קדום הנהוג שלא לשחוק כל השנה רק בימי חנוכה. He said, when I was a kid, the rabbis who were בעלי תקנות, meaning that in Europe, there was a practice where the leading rabbis of the communities, of different communities, would gather once in a while to review the religious status of communities, sometimes make decrees or regulations that have to do with commerce, with religion, with Shabbat, with personal relationships. They were pretty much trying to be on top of things. So one of the things that they found is a serious problem was that there was a restriction in Europe against playing games all year round. Meaning that people felt that you're not supposed to have this kind of levity, this kind of lightheadedness, that you play games and you laugh or you listen to music. And mainly it was because of all the persecutions in Europe, starting with the Crusades. Then during the plague after the Black Death, there were more persecution. Then there were the pogroms, was called Tahentat, 1408, 1409. So all these things really put people in a situation where they did not feel that it's appropriate to be happy, to be joyous, and the rabbis actually made takanot, decrees against playing or having fun throughout the year. And the ban was lifted only for 8 days, for the 8 days of Hanukkah. Now, why was it allowed to do it on Hanukkah? Apparently, because it's a holiday, but it's not a holiday from the Torah. It doesn't have the same level of sanctity, even though later on in the Hasidic writings they speak about the sanctity of Hanukkah, but people did not attribute Kedusha to Hanukkah, so it was a more relaxed holiday. That's one explanation, but most probably it's also because at that time of year people witnessed the non-Jews celebrating Christmas and having fun, we could say, right? So the rabbi said, okay, at least for those 8 days we will let you engage in those activities, so you won't feel completely deprived. There's a similar case to that is the case of Purim. That if you know that in the Sephardic communities, the whole idea of masquerading or wearing costumes were unknown in the past, and also drinking was not a big thing, and not only because we lived in Islamic countries. It's the idea of carnivals that masquerades and parades that were very common in Europe was not common in the Muslim world. So we adopted that. People, both in terms of wearing costumes and drinking. So it's very probable that the same thing happened with Hanukkah. So the father of Rabbi Yair Haim Ovadia, Rabbi Shimshon Bachrach, wanted to change that. Why did he want to change that? והרע בעיני אדוני אבי החסיד שיהיו ימי נס הקבועים להודות ולהלל מיוחדים לשחוק וקלות. He says what bothered him was here you have 8 days of holiday of Hanukkah that we are celebrating the inauguration of the Beit HaMikdash. That we always speak about Hanukkah, Hinuch, education, that the Maccabees really they stood up for their values, for the tradition. So now you celebrate it by playing games, and we will later see it's not just games; it's really card games and gambling. He felt it was inappropriate. So what he wanted to do was, he said, "Let us lift the ban on playing games all year round. Don't regulate that. Let people choose. You want to play today, you want to play tomorrow, whatever you want. So this way they don't have to channel." He was smart in the way he understood the human psyche, that if you limit people too much and you only let them, you have a minimal outlet on that minimal outlet, everything is going to burst open. I know for a similar, I'll give you an example. A friend of mine told me that he knew a rabbi in Bnei Barak that uses to do what is called ta'ani dibur, to avoid talking. So some people do ta'ani dibur, meaning idle talk, right, or unnecessary issues. That was before text. He told me that about 30 years ago. So some people do it for one day. This rabbi used to do it every year from Rosh Chodesh Elul until after Kippur. For 40 days he would not talk to anyone, and if there was something urgent he would write it on a note and give it to his wife and children. And so you would walk into the Beit HaMidrash, wherever this guy is, you try to talk to him, and he studies, and you think, wow, this is amazing, this man is really holy. But what would have happened, it says, at the end of Kippur, for about a day or two, this man would babble uncontrollably. No, babble, not just words. Well, you couldn't understand what he was saying because there was so much that was uploaded to the brain and had no release. This happens everywhere, with everything that you do. You know, with kids, you limit too much, it's like the forbidden fruit. Then it will come excessively. So anyway, that's what Rabbi Bacharach wanted to change. Ubikesh le'osram. He wanted to make it forbidden on Hanukkah to play games. Not completely, since he wanted to the rest of the year. ולקבוע תחתיהם שמונה ימי אדם שאין בהם ביטול משא ומתן שבני אדם נשארים בבתיהם. He said, I have an idea. Let people make official dates where they could go gamble and play, excessively. When would these days be? Says you can't do it anytime during the year because people need to work and they can't take. There was no concept like today. We use like 5 days work week, right? And vacation and long weekends, etc. They didn't have it at the time, so people needed to work constantly. So I said, let's take the 8 days from Christmas to New Year's. People don't work anyway. So let's give them. Let's say during those days you're allowed to play. It's amazing. The rabbi is suggesting in order to keep Hanukkah holy and sacred, let's tell people that they could celebrate on Christmas in a way. To think, how this compares to what happens today. I don't know if you know in Jewish schools around the country there are two approaches. Here in Maryland, I think Baruch Hashem, the more logical. They let the kids off from school during winter break, parallel to Christmas and New Year's, because everybody's on vacation, and it makes more sense. In other places, in New York, most of the schools give winter break in January, mid-January. Why? Because we don't want our kids to associate with the non-Jews when they celebrate Christmas. Okay, so first of all, the problems that it creates are. This is when usually you have heavy snow, upstate, when you go up east in New York. But nobody's in the streets, nobody works. So Christmas Day or New Year's Day, you have school, you have to take the kids to school. There are piles of snow everywhere. The roads are slippery, but still, you have to go. Terrible problems that we have with that. But the other thing is just the working assumption. As a parent, if a parent pays top dollars to send his kids to a Jewish school, right, to get them Jewish education, why would the principals think that the first thing he's going to do when they have 7 or 8 days off is to go and celebrate Christmas with non-Jews? It makes no sense. It just this is part of the controlling mentality of some institutions. In any case, the Rabbi Bacharach tried to change that, to move the playing and gaming from Hanukkah to Christmas. Didn't work. Why? Very simply, says Rabbi Yair is his son. ולא עלתה בידו, כי לא הסכימו לשנות מנהג. So you don't change practices. We are used to gamble on Hanukkah. You don't tell me to change it. This is not the minhag. So later on, in the 17th century, Rabbi Yaakov ben Chacham Tzvi of Amedin, is famous as the Yavetz, writes the following. He says, בימי דחנוכה, בשעה שזולתי מבני גילי היו עסוקים ערוך השולחן צפו הצפית מנורת שווא כולה למשוך ביין את בשרם. He speaks about his peers. that, I mean, there were yeshiva students or scholars just like him. He says, but on Hanukkah, nobody studies Torah. Until today, there are some communities where people don't study Torah on Christmas Eve. Hasidic communities that they say this is a time that spells troubles for the Jews, so we should not, whatever reason that is. But in reality, it's just the rabbis realize that you can't keep the students in yeshiva on that night also. So at least give them that kind of really of an outlet to play cards. But Rabbi the Yabet says, my peers, this is about 300 years ago. You know that everybody speaks about Europe or even any old country. But in the old country, in the past, everybody was religious, everybody was observant, everybody was modest, etc., etc. Right? The nostalgic, the great old days. It wasn't like that. He says, my peers were partying. They would set the tables, cover it, menorat shav instead of menorat zahav, a golden candelabra. It says menorat shav, a candelabra of vanity. They're drinking, lishok eshkoki, to play chess. Eshkoki is chess. Damen from dames, checkers. Karten, knows karten? Cards, Yiddish. Be'raveh mishkach shechihei. Instead of going, there's a word by the Gemara, be'moreh, be'raveh, the house of the teacher, or the house of drinking. It's like it's a wordplay for umarveh gam hu yoreh. Anyway, ki havu ben bar Shemuel v'iskondere italalu benardashit v'guriyata osim lechem kezavim litales ba'avim. He says even when they go to learn Torah, they engage in other activities. They play with the game pieces that he mentions here, guriyata are small dogs. We don't understand exactly what this is. Lita'ales ba'havim, they are flirting around. This is really disconcerting to think that this is what they did in Hanukkah. So he said, but this is not appropriate for to do in Hanukkah. And so I decided to write a kuntres, to write a booklet describing the halachot of Hanukkah. This is what the Abed writes. Later on, this we find in Kedushat HaLevi. That's Rabbi Yitzhak Levi of Berditchev, one of the early founders of Hasidut. He speaks about the people who abandon Torah and go and gamble, this is inappropriate, and this goes on and on. So for about 300, 400 years, we had this struggle where the rabbis were trying to limit, games and playing and all that on Hanukkah, but the people just took onto it, especially because it was they were forbidden from doing it in the rest of the year. So one thing that it teaches us is people really need that outlet of being more active, being creative, having individuality, personal touch. In the yeshivot, unfortunately, you have to dress the same way, you have to listen to the same sanctioned music, you have to, there are certain activities you could do, others you can't do. So when all this is bottled up, it will find eventually a release in not in a healthy way. So the answer to all that, what eventually happened was that in some manner, this whole thing changed towards playing with the dreidel. When the dreidel itself was a gambling game originally, and the letters that we say nun gimel eishin, people say nes gadol hayasham, originally meant nothing, all, half, or put in the pot. So you twist the dreidel. If it fell on n, nisht or nicht, you don't get anything. If it fell on gimel, g, which means ganze, is all, you get all the pot. If you get H, it's halbe, means half. You get half the money. And if you get S, it stands for shtel in, or shtel ein, which means put in. So you put in the pot. So, and then that had I guess less of an air of gambling than the cards. And there was something that kids also enjoyed just from the act of spinning the sevivon. So that eventually replaced gambling, and I think part of it, the reason that we don't have today that phenomenon of people playing cards or gambling on Hanukkah is because most of the people who did that eventually abandoned Judaism. Not Judaism, abandoned religion. From the European Jewry, which was split into Reform and Conservative afterwards, those were the people that found themselves trapped in that very narrow mindset. So they were basically cleansed out of the system, and only the allowed form remained. What I find most fascinating is that some rabbis worked on finding special explanations for the letters Nun, Gimel, Hey, Shin. So they said that it stands for the kohot of the neshama. We have four elements in our body, in the human being. Nun is nefesh, Gimel is guf, Shin is sechel, mind, and Hey is hakol, the totality of it all. Which in itself is a problem. It's a problem because the word guf to describe body was only an invention of the translators of medieval Spain. From Arabic they find either geshem or guf. So it can't be the original origin of the sevivon. In any case, today, Baruch Hashem, we got to this point where people allow themselves to have fun on Hanukkah, but when it started, as I said, it was an attempt to imitate or to emulate a different culture, and eventually some people, because of it, probably were pushed out of Judaism. So one has to have... That's
what I thought, because today, with the kids, you give them something to...
Right, no, so the geld, the Hanukkah geld, there's no doubt, the Hanukkah geld is a direct influence of the gifts, the exchanging gifts on Christmas. There's no doubt, and that's why it never existed in the Sephardic communities in Muslim countries. You didn't have that. But when when your children go around and they see that their friends are getting gifts all over, then you have to to somehow react to that. So like I mentioned before, if you want to give gifts on Hanukkah, which I do, you do it randomly. Not, okay, while we light candles,
right.
Here are 8 packages wrapped for each day of Hanukkah, and we're going to give it as an exchange. That way we have to be careful. Okay,